Welcome back to our channel, where we provide updates and undisclosed narratives on Catherine, Princess of Wales, and her royal family. We are excited to share the following news: King Charles's final verdict over Meghan's future after her brother exposed. I have seen the recording. After Meghan Markle's brother confirmed that he had seen the audio video of Meghan Markle's darkest secret, an insider source suggested that King Charles and William could be making a move for Meghan Markle. Despite the fact that the air is quiet above Windsor, it is the kind of chilly, heavy stillness that comes before a storm. A king is fighting his own mortality behind the old stone walls of the castle, while his successor, the Prince of Wales, is standing guard not against an enemy from another country, but against a danger that is far closer to home. The menace is a familiar face, that of a brother and a son. It assumes the appearance of a threat. A court in exile that has become a command center for a relentless battle of narratives is the sort of court that is in control in Montedo, which is located on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, and is characterized by its sun-drenched and groomed hills. This is not a conflict that is being fought with soldiers on fields of green. Rather, it is being waged with whispers in the corridors of power, with deliberate leaks to a voracious press, and with bold legal maneuvers that threaten to rock the very foundations of the British system. A thousand-year-old monarchy is caught in a bitter interine conflict that pits brother against brother, tradition against modernity, and the crown against a political class that may no longer be its unconditional ally. At stake is not just the reputation of a prince or the privacy of a duchess. It is also the future of a monarchy that has been in existence for 1,000 years. The peaceful succession that was originally envisioned for King Charles Roman III has been replaced by a bloody civil war that has not been proclaimed, and the result of this conflict will ultimately determine the House of Windsor for many decades to come. What are the ghosts of a Hollywood history? Previously, Meghan Markle was an actress who navigated the famously dangerous currents of Hollywood. Prior to becoming the Duchess of Sussex, she was a worldwide celebrity who was trapped in a continual fight with the institution that she married into. It is a history that her adversaries have combed over with an archaeological zeal, looking for fragments of a previous existence that they can reconstruct into a weapon to use against her. Old ghosts which have been reported and spoken about for a long time in the most obscure parts of the internet are now being given a shape that is both new and horrifying. The sensational allegation that a sexually explicit movie starring a lady identified as Meghan was made years before she met her prince has been revived, according to reports. These reports have been fanned by viral footage of a celebrity tape trader called Kevin Blatt. Blatt, when participating in a podcast, related the story of how he was contacted in 2018 by a lady who claimed to be in possession of a video that was 4 years old and included a Meghan who was going to marry a prince in England. The woman detailed the purported material in graphic detail. Figures on the perimeter of the royal drama have afforded these charges a peculiar and frightening plausibility, despite the fact that it is simple to dismiss them as the flower of the mill for tabloids. The aristocratic novelist and notoriously sharp-tongued critic of the Sussexes, Lady Colin Campbell, made the surprising public declaration that I have been acquainted with it for a long time, and in reality I have heard the recordings. Colin Campbell is known for his harsh tongue. There is a powerful poison in the sheer presence of such stuff, regardless of whether it is true or contrived. The mere accusation is enough to do harm in this day and age when digital information is irreversible, and perception is the only thing that defines reality. The scandal is a catastrophe for the monarchy, which is an institution for which mystique and an image of unimpeachable propriety are the foundations. The historical pattern for royal spouses has always been one of great scrutiny, which can be rather brutal at times. An examination into Wallis Simpson's history led to the conclusion that she was unqualified to hold the position of queen consort, which resulted in the abdication of a monarch. There was a never-ending barrage of harassment directed at Diana, Princess of Wales, with her every action and previous relationship being held to an impossible standard. On the other hand, Meghan's trial is a 21st-century phenomenon. The claims that have been made against her are not relegated to the realm of gossip columns in society. Rather, they are magnified by the algorithms of social media platforms, weaponized by anonymous online armies, and given a veneer of validity by pundits who argue that they have insider information. Clears throat the psychological strain that comes with running such a campaign is significant. For Prince Harry, this substantiates his most deeply held conviction, which is that the same forces who were responsible for the murder of his mother are now intent on ruining his daughter. His story of being persecuted and his choice to leave the United Kingdom for what he believed to be a safer environment in California are both bolstered by every scandalous headline and every unverified rumor. It serves as a harsh reminder to Meghan that regardless of how much charitable work she does or how well she constructs her public image, she may be reduced in an instant to a caricature derived from a history that she cannot erase. This is a message that Meghan must take very seriously. The idea that the tape's release may have been a Kim Kardashian type of moment, that is a premeditated leak for publicity, only adds a layer of cynical complexity to the situation. It portrays her not as a victim, but rather as a master manipulator of her own narrative, which is a charge that her detractors have made against her for a long time. When royal historians and media experts see this spectacle, they feel a feeling of dreadful familiarity fill their hearts. The tactic is as ancient as court politics itself, said a notable biographer who provided their statement on the condition that they remain anonymous. You do not attack the monarch directly. You attack the character and suitability of those closest to them. You create a narrative that they are a corrupting influence, an outsider who threatens the purity of the bloodline or the stability of the institution. In the 17th century, it was done with pamphlets. Today, it is done with podcasts and viral clips. The public, meanwhile, is left to choose its side in a war where the truth has become the first and most frequent casualty. Disjointed allegiances within a family. It is not only Meghan's personal history that has been the target of onslaught on her character. The roots of her identity, most notably her family, have been the subject of relentless attacks by it. It has been a difficult and public drama, a source of unending material for those who are eager to depict her as cold and ungrateful. Her alienation from her father, Thomas Markle, has had a significant impact on her life. Doria Ragland, her mother, has been the only member of her family who has maintained a presence that is both calm and dignified at her side. However, subsequent allegations have gone much farther in their scope. An explosive claim was made by Carol Malone, a pundit on the British channel GB News. She said that Doria Ragland had been incarcerated throughout Meghan's critical adolescent years. Malone implied that Thomas Markle was the only parent who nurtured and supported his daughter. The assertion, for which there has never been any conclusive proof presented to the public, garnered a lot of attention very fast. Once again, Lady Colin Campbell said that she had been aware of the rumors for a considerable amount of time, adding that she had intentionally placed oblique allusions in her book. She made the observation that Thomas Markle, the only person who could either corroborate or reject the account, had stayed remarkably quiet on the matter, a silence that she seemed to read as offering some kind of interpretation. The brutality of this line of assault is a wonderful example of strategic excellence. In doing so, it intends to disconnect Meghan's link to her maternal ancestry, and by extension to her identity as a woman of color. The presence of Doria Ragland has been an essential component of the public image of the Sussexes. She is the serene and unwavering matriarch of the family, and she is a representation of a loving family unit that exists outside of the strict restrictions of the monarchy. In order to undercut the whole story, it is necessary to taint her with a suspected criminal background by pointing to Doria's participation in the couple's Netflix documentary, in which she discussed the racism that her family had experienced. Lady Campbell was able to provide a justification for her decision to make the rumors public. Campbell made the statement, "She is a true Uriah Heep," while accusing Doria of pushing the racism far. According to this point of view, Doria gave up her right to privacy the moment she joined the public arena to protect her daughter. The dynamic is a case study in the precarious situation of royal in-laws, which is an untenable condition since the beginning. Discretion that is on the verge of becoming invisible has been the unwritten norm. For instance, the Middletons have performed their part to perfection, exemplifying the respectability of the middle class, but never going beyond the boundaries of their duty. To put it into perspective, the Markle family completely broke that pattern. It is because of this that detractors have been able to portray the upheaval that has surrounded Meghan not as a result of press intrusion, but rather as a character fault that is inherent in both her and her upbringing. It is a typical example of the strategy known as othering, which implies that she comes from a culture that is so fundamentally different and so unstable that she could never fully belong in the hallowed halls of Windsor. The psychological toll that this conflict within the family has had is significant. The trauma that a daughter experiences when she witnesses her mother being publicly demeaned, and when her father takes part either actively or through silence in the destruction of her reputation, is on a scale that is almost comparable to that of Shakespeare. It further isolates her, turning her and Harry into a unit of two against the world. Her behaviors have come to be defined by their fortress mentality, which is seen by the palace to be their biggest liability. The Prince's Gambit and the law of the Shadow Court. There is a far more deadly struggle being waged in the corridors of Whitehall at the same time as the media is engaged in a war of influence over reputation. Clears throat. This is the location where Prince Harry has launched his most ambitious and constitutionally important challenge yet. A spectacular flanking move has been accomplished by Harry after he has suffered a string of humiliating setbacks in the British courts. His claim for the automatic right to taxpayer-funded police protection while in the UK has been consistently refused. Through his appeal, he has circumvented the judicial system totally and gone straight to the government. Sources have confirmed that Harry's legal team has submitted a petition to the Home Office requesting that they reassess his security status. This action has caused shock waves to spread across the establishment. As a non-working royal prince, Harry's security requirements would be evaluated on a case-by-case basis, just like the needs of any other visiting dignitary, according to the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, RAKE, which was the body responsible for making this decision. The judicial system supported this as a legitimate and legal procedure. According to Lady Colin Campbell, Harry's request to the government to overrule a court procedure is a shocking misuse of authority and a shameless show of contemptuousness. This is what Lady Campbell refers to as the appeal. A dispute about bodyguards is not the only issue at hand. Rather, it is a direct threat to the principle of separation of powers, which is the foundation of British democracy. Independence from political intervention is one of the primary goals of the judicial system. There is a constitutionally combustible situation that arises when a member of the royal family attempts to push the executive branch to reverse a court verdict. It gives the impression that he is under the impression that his birthright elevates him beyond the rules that control other people. The repercussions are sobering for an organization that gets its credibility from the perception that it is politically impartial. In other groups, the murmurs that have been swelling into a roar about the probable cooperation of the government are perhaps more disturbing than the whispers themselves. There is a growing impression based on the source material that the present Labour administration is not acting as an impartial arbitrator in this family controversy. It gives the impression that a group inside the government is working against the royal family and that they consider Harry as a handy tool for the purpose of establishing a rival court which would serve to weaken the main branch of the family, particularly the heir, Prince William. This would serve to create a permanent division and diminish the monarchy's overall power and influence. The theory, as outlined by insiders, is that they wish to facilitate Harry's return to the United Kingdom, not for the purpose of reuniting the family. This Machiavellian scenario suggests that King Charles, who is engrossed in his treatment for illness and may be clinging to a father's wish for peace, is not truly conscious of the danger. On the other hand, Prince William is characterized as being very much aware of the situation. He has a thorough understanding of chessboard and is aware that his brother's acts are no longer just the emotional outbursts of a dissatisfied prince, but rather a deliberate political strategy. A political philosophy that has long been hesitant, if not downright opposed, to the idea of hereditary authority, is now seeing a possible coalition between his brother, with whom he has a long-standing rivalry. One must have a firm grasp on the fragile, unwritten relationship that exists between the monarch and the government in order to comprehend the seriousness of this situation. Right now, the government that is in power is the government of His Majesty. His Majesty is the one who decides who will serve as ministers. The fact that they are now constitutional technicalities does not change the fact that they express a fundamental principle: the machinery of the state is loyal to the institution of the empire. an example of a scenario that is more appropriate for the power battles that took place between Parliament and King Charles Roman II in the 17th century than it is for the 21st century, is the concept that machinery may be used to intentionally undermine the king and his successor. The specialists on constitutional law are shocked if there is even the slightest indication that a government minister is using their office to offer a favor to one royal at the cost of the established institutional order. It causes a constitutional crisis, stated a key member of the King's Council. It urges the public to see the royal family not as emblems of national unity, but rather as opposing political groups. The author writes, "This politicizes the royal family in a manner that might be irreparably destructive." Using the accusation of racism as their most powerful weapon in this political battle, the camp representing Harry and Meghan is reportedly doing so as stated in the source material. An argument that is designed to be politically irresistible to a progressive government is that they maintain the fiction that their lives and those of their children are endangered because of minimal amount of sub-Saharan African blood she has flowing through her veins. This argument is alleged to be maintained behind the scenes. It is possible that denying the prince's request may be seen as disregarding a threat that is fueled by racism, which is a poisonous accusation for any contemporary political party. The situation is a checkmate that is both cynical and perhaps clever. Harry is putting the system in a position where it must choose between honoring its own legal precedents and losing its reputation as being racist. In the eyes of Prince William, this is the ultimate act of betrayal. His brother is using the rhetoric of social justice in order to conduct a constitutional battle against the same institution that he is meant to govern. A judgment made by a brother, the honor of a kingdom. It is now abundantly clear that the chasm that exists between the two princes is completely filled with mistrust. A canyon of mistrust that is devoid of vegetation and impossible to traverse between them. The battle has developed into something that is much more ominous and more personal as a consequence of disagreements on the method and the press approach respectively. An insider source has disclosed the most damning claim of all, that Prince William is not only aware of the rumors about Meghan's purported background, but also that he has personally seen the films. This is the most devastating accusation of all. Among all the claims, this one is the most repugnant. If this one specific feature is true, then the tale is radically different from what it was before. Therefore, the quarrel goes from being in the public view to being fully private as a consequence of this consequence. Not only does it imply a certain level of surveillance and information gathering, but it also implies a cold and inflexible appraisal of a sister-in-law, which is quite unsettling. At the same time, it provides the sense that the integrity of the monarchy is more important than any remaining bonds of brotherly care for the individual who would inherit the throne. In other words, it would indicate that William, who would one day become the defender of the faith, had conducted an examination on his brother's wife and determined that she was deficient in some way. A betrayal of such kind would carry such a severe psychological load that it would be sufficient to eradicate all hope of reconciliation, both in the present and in the future. Antagonism amongst individuals is the driving force behind the more serious crises that are taking place inside the framework of the organization. According to the same sources, the royal family, which has been pushed to the breaking point, has considered the most severe penalty that is imaginable, which is to urge Parliament to strip Harry and Meghan of their rightful ducal titles. This is the most severe punishment that is possible. It would be a political earthquake if this type of event were to occur. In spite of the fact that there have been occasions in the past in which titles have been taken away. This is an extreme measure, a public announcement of excommunication from the House of Windsor. In order to fulfill this requirement, an Act of Parliament would be necessary, and legislators would be compelled to declare their allegiance. This would be a practice that would be exceedingly contentious, since it would be public and would be uncomfortable. It would be the final and irrevocable act in the case of a catastrophic occurrence that included a family that was involved. There are suspicions that Harry is actively wanting to spend more time in the United Kingdom. The alleged reason for this is because he is attempting to escape a miserable wife and a relationship that has become more serious as a consequence of specific charges about her participation in the incident involving Prince Andrew. It is happening in the midst of all of this turmoil that this is going on. This adds an extra level of complexity to the scenario that is already rather complicated. Is he now engaged in the process of advocating for security in order to be ready for a partial return? Does he have a vision of a future in which he will be able to do business on British soil, free from the influence of his family and his wife? Does he have this vision, despite the fact that there is a frightening lack of clarity on the end game? The several potential scenarios for the monarchy are all pretty awful. An emergence of a rival court, which would be the worst-case situation, would be a terrible nightmare for the Constitution. This would be the worst possible outcome. Imagine for a second that Prince Harry is operating a separate royal agenda while he is here in Britain and continues to get security from the government. It was feasible for him to court politicians, entertain people from foreign nations, and campaign for causes all of which were outside of Buckingham Palace's jurisdiction and authority. He was able to do all of these things due to the fact that this would lead to the development of two competing centers of power. It would be necessary for the general populace, the Commonwealth, and the whole world to take a stand. It would be a catastrophic blow to the monarchy's most significant asset, which is its status as a single, undivided symbol of the nation. This would give the monarchy a terrible reputation. The following is a description of the inheritance that Prince William is now in possession of. In the same way that his mother and grandmother did with the majority of the people backing them, it is quite unlikely that he will ascend to a throne in the same way that they did. The inheritance that he is about to receive includes a kingdom that is at war with itself, a family that has been torn by distrust and deceit, and an institution whose very foundations are being questioned. All of these things are going to be passed down to him. As of right now, the battle for the future of the House of Windsor is being fought in the sterile language of court filings, in the corrosive churn of the 24-hour news cycle, and in the silent, harsh places between two brothers who once stood shoulder to shoulder, but now stands away from one another. The fight for this conflict is now taking place. A struggle from within in which persons who share the same blood share the responsibility for inflicting the most severe wounds is a situation that the Crown has never previously experienced. Despite the fact that it has endured wars, revolutions, and scandals, it has never been confronted with a crisis that is precisely like this one. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts and goodbye for the time being.